You have exactly 3 days. That's it. That is the brutal, unforgiving reality of the human body. Now, you can survive for 3 weeks without food, wandering through the wilderness completely on empty, just burning your fat reserves. But without water, well, that's a different story. Your biological clock, it just stops ticking. You have precisely 72 hours, not a second more. Here's what happens first. Your kidneys shut down. Those vital organs, the ones responsible for filtering every bit of waste from your body, they just give up. Next, without water to keep it fluid, your blood thickens. It turns into a thick, useless sludge, and it struggles to circulate through your veins. Finally, your brain swells. Delirium sets in. And let me be clear, it is a horrific way to die. Because this fear is so primal, the second people realize they're stranded, what happens? Their first instinct is sheer panic. They scramble to find a river, a creek, anything wet. And then, right then, they make the mistake that actually accelerates their own death. They try to build a massive fire to boil that water. You know, most of the survival guides out there, the ones written 50 years ago, they'll tell you that boiling is the gold standard. They'll tell you that fire is life. But I'm telling you, in a true survival scenario, where your energy is your only currency, that advice is dangerously outdated. It will get you killed. Let's break down the physics of this situation. To boil just 1 liter of water, you have to bring it to 100 degrees Celsius. That requires a significant amount of thermal energy. And to generate that energy, what do you need? You need fuel. And to get that fuel, you've got to chop wood, you've got to drag branches, you have to construct a fire pit. Now, here is the survival math that nobody ever talks about. You need to think of yourself as a battery with a very limited charge. If you burn 500 calories, exerting yourself just to gather firewood, and in the process, you sweat out half a liter of your body's precious moisture, you are operating at a net loss. You are literally trading your life force for a fire that does little more than signal your position to anyone or anything looking for you. And for what? To purify water you haven't even found yet. It is a terrible return on investment. It's bad business. And out here in the wilderness, bad business kills you. So today, we're gonna flip that script. We're gonna stop fighting nature and we're gonna start hacking it. We're gonna use the laws of thermodynamics, of condensation, and biology to extract pure distilled water from thin air, from the trees, and from the dirt itself, all without ever striking a single match. The very first thing you need to understand is this. The biggest reservoir of fresh water in any forest isn't a lake or a stream. It's the forest itself. Every single tree around you, it's basically a giant hydraulic pump. Its roots go deep underground, tapping into moisture tables you could never hope to reach with a shovel. The tree then sucks that water up through its trunk and releases it right into the atmosphere through its leaves. This process, it's called transpiration. A single large oak tree can release up to 40,000 gallons of water into the air in 1 year. Think about that. That's 40,000 gallons of invisible water floating right past your face. Your job, your only job, is to catch it. This is without a doubt the most efficient hydration hack in existence, and that's because it requires almost 0 calories to set up. All you need is a clear plastic bag. That's it. Now, ideally, a heavy-duty trash bag is best, but even a simple sandwich bag can save your life in a pinch. Here's the protocol. Find a branch on a deciduous tree. We're talking something like a maple, a birch, or a willow. You must avoid coniferous trees like pines because the water can taste like turpentine. And it goes without saying, definitely avoid anything poisonous. You're looking for a branch that has as many healthy green leaves as possible, and this is key, it has to be positioned in direct sunlight. And now, you just walk away. You let physics do all the work for you. The sun creates a powerful greenhouse effect, heating up the inside of that bag. The leaves begin to transpire, releasing pure water vapor, which then condenses on the plastic and drips right down to your collection point. When you come back, you'll have perfectly distilled water, completely free of sediment and bacteria. That is survival engineering. Okay, but what if you're not in a forest, right? What if you find yourself stranded in an open field or some arid environment where the trees are all dead or non-existent? Does the physics still apply? The answer is absolutely. Gravity and condensation, they are constants. They work everywhere. In a scenario like that, you're gonna build what's known as a solar still. And what this does, essentially, is force the Earth itself to give up its moisture. You have to understand the ground, even when it looks bone dry on the surface, it holds moisture in the soil underneath. To get to it, you need to dig. So you're going to dig a hole about 2 feet deep and 2 feet wide. Then place a container, a cup, a cut open bottle, anything you have, dead center in the bottom of that hole. Now it's time to supercharge the system. You have to add biomass. Throw in green leaves, weeds, even wet mud into the hole surrounding your cup, but make sure nothing is touching it. And if you are truly desperate, this is where you can recycle your own fluid. You can urinate on the dirt around the cup. Let me repeat that. Do not pee in the cup. You pee on the dirt. The physics of distillation will do the rest, separating the pure water from the waste. So once the hole is primed, you're going to cover the opening with a plastic sheet, or a poncho. You've got to seal the edges with dirt or rocks so that no air can escape. Then, place one small stone in the center of the plastic, directly above your empty cup. This will make the plastic form a cone shape, pointing down towards the cup. Now here's what happens. The sun beats down on that plastic, heating up the air inside the hole. The moisture in the dirt and the plants turns into steam. That steam rises, hits the cooler surface of the plastic sheet, and condenses into droplets. Gravity then pulls those droplets down the slope of the plastic, right to the center, where they drip, one by one, into your cup. This system, it's a machine that filters out salt, bacteria, and waste. It literally turns urine and mud into crystal clear water. And again, it works passively. You're not burning calories, chopping wood, you're not tending a fire. You are resting, conserving your energy, all while the laws of nature are keeping you alive. All right, let's talk about the path of least resistance, because sometimes you just don't have the energy to dig. Sometimes you need water, and you need it right now. If you can force yourself to wake up early, before the sun has fully risen, just look at the grass, look at the leaves. They are covered in dew. You see, the atmosphere dumps gallons of water onto the ground every single morning, and most so-called survivors, they just walk right over it with dry lips. There's a technique for this. It's called the dew walk. It sounds primitive, I know, but it is incredibly effective. You take some absorbent clothing, cotton t-shirts, wool socks, they work best, and you tie them around your ankles and your shins. Then you simply walk through the tall grass just before sunrise. As you move, the fabric acts like a sponge, soaking up all that morning dew. Every 10 minutes or so, you stop. You take off the cloth, and you wring it out into a container or directly into your mouth. You can easily collect a liter of water in less than 20 minutes of walking. It is the easiest water you will ever find, provided you're up early enough to catch it before the sun evaporates it all away. We have to address the reality of a bad situation, though. Sometimes you don't have plastic bags. Sometimes it's not morning. Sometimes you're just staring at a muddy, stagnant puddle and you know it's the only water source for miles. If you drink that straight, you're gambling with dysentery, giardia, parasites that will kill you even faster than dehydration. But you can't boil it. Maybe you're in hostile territory, or you just don't have a fire starter. In this case, you need to build a mechanical filter. For this, you need to think like a geologist. The Earth filters water naturally by passing it down through layers of sediment. We're going to replicate that process inside a bottle. First, cut the bottom off a plastic bottle and flip it upside down. We are going to build a filtration tower. The first layer, right there at the cap, should be a piece of cloth or even a clump of grass, just to hold everything else in. The next layer, this is the most critical one, charcoal. If you can find an old campfire, you need to crush up the black charcoal, not the white ash, the black chunks. Charcoal is carbon, and it uses a process called adsorption. That's adsorption with a D, to chemically bind to toxins and impurities. It's the exact same material used in military gas masks and high-end water filters. This is the layer that captures the chemicals. Above the charcoal, you'll add a layer of sand to catch small particles. And above the sand, a layer of small rocks and gravel to filter out the big debris, like bugs and leaves. Now, when you pour that brown, muddy puddle water into the top, it's going to travel down through the rocks, then the sand, then the charcoal, and finally the cloth. What drips out the bottom will be significantly clearer, but listen to me, be careful. A filter removes sediment and chemicals, but it does not kill viruses. The water looks clean, but it might still be biologically active.
So, how do we kill the invisible killers, the things you can't see, without using fire?
We use the single most powerful source of radiation in our solar system, the sun. The method is called SODIS, which stands for solar water disinfection. You take that water you just filtered, put it into a clear plastic bottle, and you leave it in direct sunlight for at least 6 hours. The UVA radiation from the sun penetrates the water, and it completely destroys the DNA of bacteria, viruses, and parasites. It effectively sterilizes the water. This isn't some myth. This is a scientific method recognized by the World Health Organization. All right, there is one final deadly myth we need to bust before we're done here, and this one applies to winter survival. If you are surrounded by snow, you never ever eat it straight from the ground. I know it seems logical. Snow's just frozen water, right? Wrong. Eating snow forces your body to melt it internally. You are burning your own body heat just to turn ice into liquid. This drains your core temperature with terrifying speed and accelerates hypothermia. You are literally freezing yourself from the inside out. You must always melt snow in a container first. Use sunlight or use body heat transferred through a layer of clothing, but melt it before you consume it. Never eat it raw. So let's recap. You are not a victim of your environment. You are an engineer of your environment. You now know that boiling is energy expensive and it's dangerous. You know that trees are just water reservoirs waiting to be tapped. You know the ground itself can be distilled using a solar still. You know morning dew is free hydration, and you know how to filter mud and turn it into life-giving water. You've secured your heat source from our last explainer. Now you've secured a renewable source of water. But that clock, it's still ticking. You might be hydrated and you might be warm, but your calorie reserves are hitting zero. You're getting hungry. And you look around. The forest is full of animals. Your primal instinct is screaming at you to sharpen a stick, make a spear, and go hunting. You start to envision yourself taking down a deer, having a feast. I am telling you right now, if you try to hunt in a survival situation, you will starve to death. Period. The caloric math of hunting is completely broken. You will burn far more calories chasing that food than you will ever get from catching it. In the next briefing, I'm going to show you exactly why hunting is a trap, and I'm going to show you what you should actually be eating to survive. Things that don't run away, things packed with protein, and things you are probably walking on right now. You don't need a weapon, you need to know where to look. Click the video on your screen. Do not starve. I'll see you there.